the plea that was made for the recalculation of AGR dues by Vodafone Idea primarily has been shot down by the Supreme Court. Rucha is joining in to give you a perspective on what this is all about in case you've missed it today and over the course of the last several months and years. Rucha, what can you tell us?
Thanks, Alex. So I'll start with what are AGR dues first. Now, these are the dues which telecom companies have to pay to the government in the form of percentage of revenue, and this is for using the spectrum license. Now, the case was all about that government had calculated this kind of dues as a percentage of total revenue, that is telecom as well as non-telecom revenue. But then the telecom companies later believed that only telecom revenue should be included in calculating this kind of percentage. And therefore, these telecom companies had filed a plea against this kind of calculation. But the latest development over here is that Supreme Court has rejected this kind of plea by the telecom government, by the telecom companies, and this means that the percentage of revenue to be used for calculation of this fees would include both telecom as well as non-telecom revenues, and hence would increase the liability of the telecom companies. Now, if we move on to the next slide, we'll see that the kind of AGR dues which each company is required to pay to the government, starting with Vodafone Idea, it owes around 70,300 crore in dues to the government, which is the highest amongst all the three players. Next one is Bharti Airtel, owes around 44,000 crore in dues to the government. And lastly, Reliance Jio, there are no such particular dues to be paid to the government because it only started in 2016 and it has already paid the dues which it had to. So no further dues are likely for Reliance Jio, but we'll see what kind of cash lies on the balance sheet for Vodafone Idea and Bharti Airtel. Well, Vodafone has 535 crore of cash against a 70,300 crore liability. I mean, a huge sort of asset liability mismatch over here. Bharti Airtel has around 16,340 crore cash on balance sheet against its AGR liability of about 44,000 crore. So clearly, Bharti as of now stands at a better position than what Vodafone Idea does. But then let me move quickly against the timeline. Now, back in 2005 and 2006, government had this kind of issue about calculation of these AGR dues, wherein it mentioned about using both telecom and non-telecom revenues for this kind of due. But naturally, telecom companies did not agree, and hence they filed another petition, if we can move on, in 2019. But then again, the verdict went against the telecom companies, and Bharti Airtel paid around 18,000 crore of dues, and Vodafone Idea also paid certain dues amounting to around 7,800 crore. Back in October 23, again Vodafone and Bharti Airtel together had filed in October 2023. If we can move on to the next slide, and coming to the last timeline, we can see that these companies had filed a petition against the judgment, initial judgment by the government. But then today Supreme Court denied that kind of plea, and I think this is the last stage, and now these telecom companies will have to pay this kind of dues back to the government.
All right, thank you for breaking that down in great detail. Let's quickly pull up, the couple of stocks which have seen an impact. Vodafone, of course, now 15% lower. We've seen a second circuit on Vodafone, so that continues in free fall, at least as we speak. Let's also pull up Airtel, where we're not seeing much of an impact, but Indus Towers 2 down now 12.5%. So maybe second circuit not hit, but nonetheless, quite a large chunk of investor wealth wiped out from this 1 lakh crore plus kind of market cap company.